Okay guys, welcome to our studio in Emmeloord. We always wait a little bit for YouTube and Facebook to catch up, and of course turn on the audio. It's also very important because otherwise you guys don't hear anything. And let me just see if the audio is a little bit too loud, because last time we had a little bit of noise. So we changed some stuff in the audio and it should be a lot better now. Okay, Digital Classroom. So what is Digital Classroom for you guys who just turned in? Digital Classroom is a live stream straight from our studio in Emmeloord in the Netherlands. And what we do is actually a live photo shoot. We try to do 2 or 3 sets during Digital Classroom, including the whole retouching part. The nice thing about Digital Classroom is that we actually have a chat room running on both Facebook and on YouTube. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat room and we'll try to incorporate that into our live shoot, or we'll just try to answer the questions in between. We also have photo critiques and we got some cool images in today from one of our viewers. And of course you can also send in your images. Just send them to me, info@frankdoorhof.com, and we will make sure that in the next episode of Digital Classroom, maybe your images will be reviewed. Now, of course, Digital Classroom is made possible by certain companies, and the companies for Digital Classroom are actually BenQ and Rogue Expo Imaging. And Rogue, of course, well, you know him from the flash benders, also the Frank Doorhof flash bender, but you also probably know him in the States for the Nissin strobes. Yes, the speed lights we recently started testing, and I absolutely love those speed lights. We actually found out that the modeling light is incredibly handy. Now you might wonder, modeling lights, speed lights? Yes, the Nissin strobes, they have a modeling light on board. Not all versions probably, but the ones that we tested, they do. So that's really awesome. Okay, so we have some people online. Frank, audio sounds good to me. Well, that's what we wanted to know, because we want to make sure that you guys can hear everything. Okay, so our team for today is Anneweek. She's sitting behind me. And we have a beautiful model, of course, Lisanne. And we have something else. Now let me just very quickly, just show you what we have in our studio at the moment. So as you can see here, you see our different camera angles, but you also see some really cool backdrops, right? Well, we recently started distributing click prop backgrounds. Yeah, well, that's a mouthful. So I have to find something that's simpler to announce. But anyway, Click Prop Backdrops is a company from the UK, and they print amazing backdrops. We found them out in South Africa, and they liked my work, and they asked me like, hey Frank, we love your work with your studio walls. Can you make pictures of those studio walls and we print backdrops of them? And we actually thought that's an awesome idea because, well, you guys of course want me in your studio, right? Well, that's not possible, but thanks to Click Prop Backdrops, you can actually have a piece of in your studio, namely my backdrops. And one of the backdrops, by the way, how's the name called? Opulent Red? Yeah, Opulent Red is one that you should look out for the very simple reason. It's a reflective backdrop in the studio, and having light on that backdrop is always a nightmare because it reflects everywhere. And it's a backdrop that I love but also hate to use because for the very simple reason students have a lot of problems with moving around that backdrop and getting the shot actually without that reflection. The cool thing is, if you buy the Opulent Red, you don't have that problem because I actually lit it the way that I like it, and because the material isn't as reflective as our original wall, it's very, very easy to photograph. So I love doing that stuff. Okay, so let me see. First questions come in. Dear Frank and your creative team, thanks for sharing your knowledge. Warm greetings from Croatia. Please could you share some info about your new backgrounds? I just did. So we found them in South Africa and we are now distributing them for the Benelux. So if you want one of those backdrops, make sure you check them out. I will leave links in the comments below. But today it's all about lighting, and it's all about what do you do with a backdrop? How do you mix them together? So our model Lisanne has several setups, and I'm actually going to do very simple lighting setups, but I'm also going to use some tricks with lighting. And one of the things that I love to do with lighting is always check out new things. So in other words, you can use your beauty dish on your model, how we're going to start, but there's so much more. So today it's more about special effects with lighting. So not just lighting, but special effects. Anneweek, you also wanted to say something?
Yeah, the pictures of the new backgrounds are in our Facebook Studio FD.
Okay, so, that's the Dutch version.
That's the Dutch version, but there's a folder with photos, and those are the signature Frank Doorhof backdrops.
So if you go to our Facebook Studio FD, Annemiek will leave the link also in the comments below later on. You can actually find a photo album with all the backdrops. Now we are having some server difficulties at the moment, so that means that they are not yet on our web store or my website, but we'll do that very soon as they fixed our server problem. So let's hope that's very fast. Okay, so I think we're ready for the first set, Annemiek, or do you want something else? No, right? First set?
First set.
Okay, let's bring in Lisanne and let's switch over to the studio, but not before we officially, of course, start Digital Classroom. Okay, and there we go. Okay, Lisanne is in the set, so let's just go to the studio and let's have some fun. Let's switch over the cameras. There we go. Okay. Annemiek, are you ready for this?
I hope so.
I hope so. Well, Lisanne, hello. How are you?
I'm fine, are you?
I'm fine. Hello.
Yes.
So, we have our model Lisanne, and one of the things that's very important when you do a photo shoot is that you make sure that your model feels at ease. So I know a lot of you guys, you just barge in and you go like, hey, stand there and pose. And in all honesty, that isn't the way that I should start a photo shoot. I always just shake hands and say, hey, how are you doing? And of course, before the photo shoot, we have coffee or tea or drinks or whatever. And at that point, the model is already a little bit at ease, and that makes your photo shoot so much easier. So Lisanne, can you please stand against the wall? And don't worry, the walls can handle it. Oh, don't do it too much. No. Don't make her too scared for that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's turn on the strobes. So at the moment, I'm using a beauty dish from Hensel with an Expert 500. And the Expert 500 is a really fast strobe. And the nice thing about a fast strobe is not only that you can freeze action, but somehow, and I had a whole discussion about this with another guy, and we agree, the faster the flash duration of the strobe, somehow it seems like the images are a little bit more crisp, a little bit more right in your face, more three-dimensional. Do you know what I mean? So when you shoot with natural lighting and you shoot on a shutter speed of, let's say, 1/1000th of a second or 1/2000th of a second, just look at the difference. You will see that there's a little bit of change. Now when you do that with strobes and you have a strobe that has a flash duration of, let's say, 1/600th of a second, and these babies are going up to 1/8000th of a second, you can see a little bit of a difference. Now, in a previous digital classroom, some of you guys asked me that question, and at that point I only said it was my suggestion that it was the speed of the strobe. We actually discussed it with somebody who knows a lot about how these strobes work, and indeed, the faster the flash duration, the more you get that crispiness in your shots. That saves you Photoshop work. I'm just kidding. Okay, so we have our model and we have our lighting. Now, the first thing we have to do is determine what we want. If you want a normal set, a lot of people will do actually this. We'll just place the light in front of the model. Now, I will show you very quickly how that looks, but it's not something that I would highly recommend, to be honest. So let me just do this very quickly. And after that, don't worry, we're going to go into the creative part. But let me first do it simple. Okay, Annemiek, can you please give me my light meter? Okay. Thank you. And after this, we're also going to switch over, of course, to the twin view, so you can see Capture One, which we use for tethering. Okay. Now, when you meter the light, hold it in front of your model's face, or the area you want correctly lit, and take your light meter reading. This is a question that comes up a gazillion times. What do I do with the light meter? Point it towards the light source, point it towards the camera. In this case, it's very simple. You point it towards the light source and the camera, because I'm shooting it from the same angle. But you always have to remember that these light meters are not reflective meters like you have in your camera. This is an incident meter. That means light hitting that dome. That's what's going to set up. So in other words, if you have a Caucasian model or you have a really dark-skinned model, it doesn't matter. The value you see on this light meter, that's that light. So it doesn't matter what's behind it, that will be rendered correctly. And this is also why it's very simple to understand where do you point that light meter. You don't point it anywhere. You hold it in front of the area you want correctly lit. And at that point, you have the perfect exposure. Well, if you set your camera up correctly. Because what did I hit? 8.88. So let's turn up the power by 2 clicks. 1, 2. And that should be f11. So let me see. f11, ISO 100. Okay, first shot. Very simple. I'm not going to even ask my model to pose for this one. And as you can see here, it's not a bad shot, but it's also not inspiring. It's okay. It's a little bit more than okay because he has a nice dress on and of course that amazing backdrop. But it's more like a shot like, nah. You're not gonna, nah. No. It's more a nah shot. Okay, so let's try something else. Now, one of the things that you see a lot in movies is directional lighting. Now, you might wonder, what is directional lighting? The name actually already tells it. It's lighting that has a certain angle or direction. Now, you might say every light has direction, right? Because even straight on. Yes, but when we talk about directional lighting, we actually mean that the lighting in the set gives a certain flow to the image, a certain direction. So watch this. So when I take this strobe, and I'm actually going to place it besides my model, almost against the backdrop, and just feather it away from the backdrop. I can even do it a little bit lower. There we go. And just aim it away from my model. There we go. That looks really nice. Okay, gonna take the light meter again. There we go. I love that. Yeah. It's so cool. Why shouldn't you use a light meter? You don't even have to meter the light with it. You just do cool stuff with it. Or you try to whatever. It's so cool. There we go. 11.2. 1, 2. Now, because I changed my direction of light and the distance of light, why should I remeter? Because of the direction or the distance? Yeah, correct. Or wrong. I don't know what you said, but I'm just playing with you guys. So what you do is, because you change the distance to your model, you have to remeter. Now, light travels over the distance and loses its intensity. We call that the inverse square law. So that means whenever you move your light, it's very clever to or keep the same distance or remeter. They might say, Frank, is there an easy solution for me to never remeter my lighting? Just do it once. There actually is. Now, this sounds a little bit weird, and I would never ever do this myself, but I've seen it done in several studios, and it's actually pretty simple. You take a piece of rope, and on the rope you make little labels. F16, F11, F8, or 5.6, or whatever. And those labels are actually the distance you move your strobe away from the model. So the only thing you have to do is take a mannequin or something else, meter your light on F16, and now start moving your light away and make the rope longer. Now, as soon as it's F8 or F11 or whatever you guys want, you put a new label on. And now the next time your model is in the studio, make sure you use the same strobe and the same modifier, so don't change anything, and also keep the same light output. You just take your rope, you go like, I want to have F11. Okay, pull the strobe away, there we go. And now you can also change angles, because it's only about that distance. Personally, I think it's incredibly amateuristic. But for some people, it will work like a charm. Me personally, I'll just remeter. So, but some people ask me always like, hey, I don't want to meter in the studio. Well, that's one of the solutions. Okay, so now it's very important that I coach my model to not look into the camera. For the very simple reason, if she looks into the camera, let me show you. Can you look into the camera, please? Of course you can. Okay, let me first cancel my focus. There we go. Okay, so when she looks into the camera, you will see that there's one very, very dark side and one light side. Now, we can play with this. Now, did you ever hear about Rembrandt lighting? Well, this is one of the setups where you come a little bit close to that Rembrandt lighting. Now, Rembrandt lighting actually means that you have a nice triangle of light on one side. So one side is lit and one side is actually in shadow, but because the model turns her head just a little bit, the nose will actually just hit a little bit of light and you get that beautiful triangle. So let's try that. So look a little bit down. There we go. That's absolutely awesome. Okay, now look a little. Yes, there we go. And now you can already see that nice Rembrandt triangle Now the only thing I have to do is, okay, try a little bit with your poses, a little bit different. There we go, that's awesome. Cool. Now I hear you guys going like, hey Frank, I really like this setup. Man, I love that backdrop. Yeah, me too. I love the model. Yeah, me too. And that Sony camera. You love everything about this, right? The only problem is, and you can already see that in the shot, it's a little bit on the dark side. It's a little bit where you go like, I wish. Well, your wish is my command, right? Now, when you look at a scene, and you look at how a scene actually is built up, you can actually see that we now have a backdrop, a model, and lighting. Now, because I want that really close light, I'm using a honeycomb grid. Very simple, because the honeycomb grid actually steers that light towards our model. Now, when I take off the honeycomb grid, everything is lit, so also that part of the dress that you guys want to see. But in all honesty, that's not really the way that I want this shot. I want it dark and moody, but I still want a little bit more detail in the shadows. Now, one could say, okay, Frank, that's very simple. You go to Photoshop or Capture One, whatever you want, and you just open up the shadows. Yes, but when I open up the shadows, I can of course do it with local adjustments, but then I have to do it in Photoshop or Lightroom or Capture One. The thing that I want to do is actually teach you guys how to do it on the set, that you don't have to do a lot in Lightroom or Photoshop. Maybe you have other hobbies like Call of Duty or making music, or maybe you have a family like me. So we want to do it on the set and as little as possible in Lightroom or Capture One. So what do? The first thing you have to realize is the distribution in a lighting setup, and that's actually called contrast ratio. So we have a certain area that will be black and a certain area that will be white. Let's say we have a zone system, Ansel Adams. So everything that's below a certain zone will actually appear too dark on our set. So what we want to do is we want to raise that lower zone up. But how do you do that? Because I only have one light source now on my model. This is where the technique comes in called light in light. It's actually the technique that I called light in light. I don't know what other guys call it, but it's actually a technique which I call light in light. And then we immediately respond, oh, not towards me, but towards the camera. So let's see if we have one more strobe. And can you give me the strip light? That one? Now, I don't want a big broad light for this. I actually want a smaller light source. So what we have here is a strip light, and Wick is now going like, why didn't you tell me this before we started? I didn't know yet. I always change stuff last minute. And it's very important that you place this under the same angle or the same direction as your other light source. And now we're going to talk a little bit, that's a little bit more difficult. And normally I do this in our commercial videos, which you can find online at our video web store. But when I talk about this technique, I go a little bit more in depth in our commercial videos. But I'm going to try it for digital classroom. Sorry, I was a little bit confused because the cameras weren't aimed correctly. Okay, so we're going to turn this one on. I'm going to aim it at our model. And it's not that important to do it 100% correctly. We just aim it, just a little bit like this. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it off. Now you might wonder, Frank, you just turn it on. I know, but I'm first going to turn it off. So let me grab a light meter very quickly and show you different ways to meter this. The first one is one of the most simple ones, but you have to have an expensive light meter. It's called reflective metering. We already know that our main light is f11. Now when I turn on my light meter and I go to reflective metering and I meter one part of the dress that I want detail, I can just look through the meter, aim, and meter. And now I have 2.04. Now when I go from f11 to 2.0, that's 11 to, yes, 8, correct, 5.6, 4, 2.8, yeah. You could say that everything below 4 is pretty much gone. So we already know that where I aimed my light meter, there will be no detail. Now look at the image, there is no detail there. So that method is rock solid, it works like a charm. There's another method. If you don't have a light meter that does reflective metering, you have to be smart. You have to think. Because now I'm actually metering light before it hits the subject. So when I use reflective, I know exactly, if I set it on 2.04, that part will be 18% gray. I shoot on f11, so it will be dark. when I use incident meter readings, it varies if the subject is black, white, and anything in between. So now I have to calculate in my head, like, okay, how does this dress look? It looks like slightly above medium gray. So I have to think about this, slightly above medium gray. Let's do the same meter reading. That gave me 2.04 first. And it gives me now 4.03. So that actually means that indeed the dress is darker than I expected. So this is why it's so important to do that calculation in your head. Okay, 4.03 going to F11, 4, 5.6, 8, 11, 3 stops difference. Look at the screen, you don't see any detail, so this is a flaky way of doing it. It's not perfect, but it helps, because watch this. Gonna turn on the light. Just leave it on the lowest setting for now, 3. Okay, we had 4.03, let's do it again. Now 4.05, so it already registers just a little bit. So let's just turn it up. There we go. 4.7. Let's meter. Okay, going great. It's slowly building up that power. So let's do it even more. Ah, there we go. 11.2. So 11.2, and that's normal. And you know why? Because that light was F11, right? That light is now actually adding to the other light. So what I have to do is actually turn that light down 2 clicks. Okay, 1, 2. And let's just take a test shot. But before I do it, let's do a reflective metering to show you guys how much difference that makes. So now I had to calculate and maybe test shot a little bit. Now we're going to do it reflective. 2.86. Let's say that's almost F4, and we are on F11, so 4, 5.6, 8, 11. Great, that's within that range. So with incident, I have to remeter a lot, and I have to think about it, maybe take a test shot. With reflective, I now already know I'm in the ballpark. So let's take a camera. Let's do the same thing again. So look a little bit towards the light. Very nice. And there we go. And now we should have that same nice dynamic range in the shot, but you can see a lot of her dress. And it's not too much, it's just that little bit of extra. And the cool thing about this is, you don't need a bigger light source, because this is where a lot of people struggle with. They have that beautiful, nice light quality of a beauty dish with a grid, and they need a little bit more on the dress. So what do? They take off the grid, and then you lose that beautiful light quality of that grid. By doing this, you're actually adding a little bit of extra light from another strobe. So it looks amazing, right?
Yeah.
You can't even see the shots. It's amazing, right? Okay, let's do it from a different angle a little bit. There we go. That's awesome. Nice. Cool. Okay, now because we have this shot, let's up the ante a little bit. Anyway, do we have one strobe with the blue gel on it? I already see the strobe. Now I need the attachment with the blue gel. And I promised you guys to make it simple today. But when you do this, it slowly grows into something a little bit more interesting. Okay. So let's change the light. Okay, perfect. Can you still see the light setup in a week from everywhere? Okay, cool. Now, when you buy stands, a lot of people ask me, like, what kind of stands should I buy? C stands? Well, we don't have them a lot over here. Or should I buy boom arms? Or because they're expensive? Or should I just get a normal stand? I highly recommend you guys to get boom arms. For the very simple reason, you can place your strobe really close to the backdrop. And that's what we're going to do now. So I'm going to take this strobe, and I'm literally going to place it against the backdrop. Something I can't do with a normal stand. Okay, let's turn it on. And just
the backdrops are also really easy to clean.
What,
if you bump into something with your shoes, or you can clean it very easily.
Okay, cool. Okay. There we go. Stay. And let me put in the power. I highly recommend this too. Oh, everywhere in our studio we have extension cables with small outlets. So that means that wherever I'm in the studio, I can always get my power there. Normally when you're in the studio, you have like fixed power outlets, and in all honesty, they're always too far away, or they just make me trip over the cables because they're too tensioned. With this, I can just throw them around the studio. If they break down, we just buy new ones, but you have power everywhere. Okay, so let's aim the light a little bit more up. I'm not going to go for a standard like lens flare kind of shot. I just want to add a little bit of extra mood. Now with this light I don't meter, for the very simple reason this is what we always call cooking. We're just trying something out with lighting. So look a little bit that way and do something with your arms again. Very nice. Okay, this is way too much, sorry. So let's just turn this down all the way down. Okay, one moment. This is one of the strokes that we have to do manually. Okay, there we go. So I have to see what I'm doing. Okay, awesome. Okay, aim it a little bit more towards me. And there we go again. Okay. There we go, 1, 2. Okay, we have to wait for the other stroke. There we go. Oh, that's nice. So now we get a really nice, very, very soft, bluish kind of tone on the image. And I really like that. It shouldn't be too much, just a little bit. And I'm going to show you a cool trick with that later on in Photoshop. Maybe we can get a little bit more output out of this one. Not too much, just a little bit. So half a stop. Okay, perfect. Love it. Ah, that's perfect. There we go. Nice. Okay, look a little bit more towards the light source. There we go. Awesome. Center your eyes. Great. Nice. Love it. Lisanne, you rock. You're awesome. Okay. And the final ones. And one more. There we go. Awesome. You can change for the next set. They're going to break down the lighting from this one. And let's see what we can do in Photoshop. And I'm going to show you a really cool trick with color temperature. Okay. So let's switch cameras towards me. There we go. And let's first go to full screen. So I'm just going to explain some stuff to you guys. Let me see what Emmeloord did. Okay, there we go. So what I did, let me just resume what I did. So we have this light source on our model that looks absolutely awesome and amazing, but it's too dark. Now, one solution is do it in Photoshop, Lightroom, or Capture One. And this is very valid because nowadays we use a lot of RAW files that have a tremendous amount of dynamic range, way more than you can capture in a JPEG. So why not do it in Photoshop or Lightroom? The thing is, when you do it in Photoshop and Lightroom, there's one really big advantage. The first one is, of course, you're doing it digitally, so you can use your brush and do it in any location you want. The disadvantage is there will be a period where you can't get all the detail back that you want because, for example, you already shot it on a higher ISO, maybe with continuous lighting. Now, by using an extra light source, you have so much more control because now you can actually just aim that light exactly to where you want it and just open up those shadows that way. So it's a really, really cool trick. Okay, so let's go into Photoshop. Or let's first do the selection, of course. So let me switch back to this one. There we go. Awesome. Now, most of the time, I will do my selection backwards. So I will actually go like, I really love this shot. And some people asked me last time, like, hey Frank, why do you do your selection backwards? Is there a trick to this? There actually is. Now, did you find out that over the years when you do photo shoots, you at one point you just know what you want and you know when you nailed it? That's the same with me. So what I do is I will shoot an image and I will build it up like you saw here. We start out with the beauty dish, then we add light in light, and then we added the blue gel. So I'm already working towards an end result. So for me, it doesn't make any sense to see all the images that I did before. Of course, for learning educational part, we shoot them. Maybe for a website it's cool. So we will actually just keep those images because maybe in a book or whatever, I can use those images to show how we build up a set. But overall, it doesn't make any sense to go through those images for the very simple reason we already know which one we want to have, the one with the blue, right? The only thing I have to do is find the best one with the blue. So I already gave one 5 stars. And that was the last one. And I already know that probably the last one was actually the one that I liked the most. And these images aren't bad, but it's just I don't like the way that she poses somewhere. I think it's a little bit too over. This one I really like. This one is too dark in the eye. So you already know by yourself, like, okay, this arm I don't like. And you can delete those straight away. Now, I won't do that now during Digital Classroom, but you know what I mean, right? Take some time for this because otherwise your hard drives will literally just fill up. Okay, so I've set Capture One always on rating. So that means that if I make my selection, I can actually already see the rating. So in this case, rating, and already the first 2 are here. Now I look at those images and I go like, which one do I like most? That one, without any doubt. So this one will get a 0. This one I will retouch, and let's see if I have one more that's interesting. Maybe a darker one for the model herself. No, one without the blue. I think this one is okay-ish. This one is cool. There we go. Oh, this one looks very, very glamorous. It's almost like she has a split. I love that. Wow. Okay, so we have 2 more. Now, with these kind of, go for 1 or 2. So we have the blue one, which I really like, and then we go through these. This one I don't like anymore. And in all honesty, I don't know which one I like the best. So I look at this one because this is my main image. This is the one I'm going to use. I'm just going to go, and then this one is so totally different. So I'm going to select those. Personal opinion. It is not colored by Lightroom or by Adobe or whatever. On the floor. It shouldn't be there. So anyway, so my personal opinion is Adobe is a steal. For about $10 a month, you get the whole photography plan. You get Lightroom CC, which is absolutely kick-ass on your mobile device. You get Lightroom Classic, which should be renamed as Pro or Lightroom. And the CC is connected, but hey, that's my opinion. And you get Photoshop. And that's all for about $10. So that's about one time going to Starbucks. And you're already there. Now, there's a lot of competition out there that promises you guys the mountains, free upgrades, whatever. Do realize one very, very simple thing, and just use common sense. If you promise free upgrades for the rest of your life, where is the money coming from for research and development, right? At one point, the market is saturated with Lightroom or Luminar or whatever exposure. And I love those companies, don't get me wrong. I really, really love Luminar and Exposure and DxO. So I don't have anything against them. The thing, however, is you have to realize that all software that promise you lifelong free upgrades will not be updated because of research and development problems. And Capture One charges you a nice amount every year for an upgrade. It's not too expensive, it's not very cheap, but it's a nice in the middle ground amount of money you have to pay. On the other hand, the amount of money you pay for the upgrade is the same that you buy for 1 year of Adobe Creative Cloud. So my opinion, guys, sorry, get Adobe Creative Cloud and use anything else in between. For example, I love Lightroom, but I absolutely adore Capture One for tethering and for raw conversion on models. When I do street and travel photography, Lightroom is amazing for that kind of stuff. So it depends. But if you only have money to spend on one software, I would highly recommend getting that Creative Cloud program. And again, I'm not working for Adobe. I just love how they do stuff. And I feel it's a little bit harsh to read reviews online where they actually go down on Adobe like, hey, It sucks, and it doesn't. Okay, so open up the shadows a little bit, and you can see why I didn't do this on the set. Why I used extra lighting. If I open up shadows, you can see that some areas open up nicely, like the bottom part, but in the face it's absolutely horrendous. It just looks terrible. So you could do local adjustments, but again, better to just use that light source. So let's just leave it like this because we already used that extra light source here, but I just wanted to show you what happens with her face if I do this. Okay. So we can open up this, maybe add a little bit of exposure right away. I think I was a little bit off. There we go. No, I wasn't. Okay. Do the same thing for this one. And that one is already picture perfect. So let's go to Photoshop. In Capture One we use so-called recipes, where I actually have a TIFF 16 bits uncompressed Adobe RGB going to Photoshop. So Control D. Let me see if there are any questions. Okay, and we just drop the links in for the backdrops. Okay, so first things first. And the thing is, this is always a little bit weird for me to explain. And it's about skin retouching. Now, we all know skin retouching as something that's often used with a little bit of magic, and people just claim like, okay, we work for hours on it and that's the only way to do it. In all honesty, just use a filter, guys. And you can make an action, like for example, high frequency separation. If you don't want to use a filter or you don't have the money for it, just make an action like this, where you just use high frequency separation. And you can use blurs on different areas. Just look online if you want to see frequency separation. I did several videos on it. It's an amazing technique, but in all honesty, it's still a lot of work. And overall, you want to be fast, right? You want to be done with it. Unless, of course, you want to spend more time on the creative part. But for skin retouching, you do it as fast as possible. Okay, so I use a filter called Imagenomic Portraiture. You just open it up. And I've shown this several times on Digital Classroom, so I'll go very fast about it. I have everything on full blast nuclear, meaning full blast, everything is on the highest setting as possible. Now, that doesn't mean that I like that. That sounds weird, right? The reason I do it is because it evens out the skin very, very nicely in color. And by using pressure sensitivity in your brush or using your opacity, you can actually make the effect look less on certain areas and more on other areas. So I have it on full blast, and one of the very important things you have to do is turn off auto mask. So if I have it on, you can see that only the skin is retouched, everything else is left alone. The problem, however, is if you do that, sometimes it misses something when, for example, you have a model that has blue gel over here or a red gel over here or whatever, or you use mixed lighting, it will only do this little area that was lit with normal lighting. By using it without that auto masking, you actually do it on the whole image. And my next step actually explains why I do it. Always do a new layer and press OK. So now I have one part that's incredibly blurred, way too much, and I always add a little bit of spice for the color in the face. So let's go here, and this is of course way too much. Now go for layer mask. I'm gonna do this fast, guys, because you've probably seen this a lot already from me. So let's go to a white brush. And first I'm gonna go over all the areas that I want 100%. And as you can see, I don't touch any of the borders. I just go with 100% on the areas that need it. And in the past I had to run the filter sometimes twice. Now she has a pretty good skin for retouching, but sometimes with a commercial client you have somebody that goes like, ooh, yeah, we need a new version of Photoshop for that hasn't even been on the roadmap. You know the feeling, right? They ate the whole Hershey factory chocolate before they came for the photo shoot. And you don't want that. So at that point it really helps to do it like this. Okay. Now I already lowered the opacity a little bit for her arms, and you can see that it's less aggressive at the moment. It looks actually pretty cool. Okay. I always make the joke with Bob Ross when I do this. If you don't know Bob Ross, guys, come on. Look him up online. You will have a blast. Watch it with some friends. And it will be an amazing night you will never forget. Oh, and do remember, if she has a split, and I cannot tell you, and I'm a little bit ashamed to tell you this, guys, You don't know how often it happened to me when I started retouching that I forgot that a model had legs or arms. So I did this whole face reconstruction stuff, which I did in the past because eyes had to be bigger, pupils had to be... Anyway, I did it way over the top, like most guys when they start out probably. And then I had this beautiful, beautiful face. I stored the image, put it online, and somebody goes like, yeah, they also have legs, Frank. And I go like, oh, damn, you really... Forgot it. So what I normally advise you guys is, please, before you do a flatten layer, always do this: view 100%. Oh, sorry. Of course, fit on screen. And now press this little button. And what button is it? It's the backslash. Because now I can actually see where I painted it and with how much opacity. And as you can see, I hit all the parts. Now, one could say, okay, go over it and do it nicely. Don't, because I chose my pressure sensitivity to take out certain areas. So I don't want to do it. This is how I like it. This is what I want to do. Okay, so I already told you I added a little bit of saturation in image normal portraiture. The reason for this is, in most cases, it flattens out the skin really nice. There's another reason. If I now go to that layer and make it active, and I go to image adjustments, and I go to hue and saturation, I can actually just drop down the saturation to 0, and you see this. Looks like she has a new mask on, right? So you don't want that. So what I do is I will just lower it just very, very slightly. There you go, maybe to -8. And it just takes a little bit of the edge off, but it blends together really nice with the rest. Okay, so layer, flatten image. That's my thing. I always flatten my images. Now when I look at the shot, I go like, yeah, it's okay. It's cool. But let's just add a little bit of color. Now, in the past, I showed you guys already how to do it with curves. I will do it very quickly with curves. So if you do, and by the way, I know my shortcuts. The reason I'm doing it like this is a lot of guys that watch this probably don't know all the shortcuts. So I'm showing you where it is in the menu. So you can actually pause the video and see exactly where I got that stuff. Okay, so the first things is, of course, RGB. Now, a lot of people don't even know what to do with this. Go here, go for red. Now what you do is you take away a little bit of the red, there we go, and add a little bit in the highlights. There we go. Take a little bit less out of the shadow, take a little bit more out of the shadow, sorry. Go to blue. And now with blue I always finish it off. Give it a little bit of a cool look. There we go. And go back to red. And just keep mixing until you like it. Okay, so now when I look at this image, I go like, okay, this looks pretty cool. It's okay. And you can store this as a look. Personally, I like to do it with software. And my favorite go-to software, without any doubt, is exposure software. Now, one probably know them right under the name Alien Skin Exposure. That's their old name. They changed it to exposure software, which I get, but I also think it's a shame. But hey, I don't know what they were thinking. But I think exposure software is absolutely cool, but I just loved Alien Skin. Okay, now the thing that I do is I just look at the look that I like. Oh, I really like this one, really old-fashioned. And this one is also cool. And I just go through these presets. And that's the cool thing about exposure software. You just go through the presets. You don't have to activate anything. As soon as you see something that you like, for example, let's say I really like this one, the black and white, you just click on it, you see a star, and after that you can just keep selecting images. You go like, oh, I really like this one, or this one is really nice, for example, or this one. I think this one is better. Okay, and now you can actually, oh, you have to do one thing, by the way. Take that one out. Okay, in some of my presets you will see a little bit of a white dot. I don't know why, but just turn that off. If you see it, just turn it off. I don't know why that happened, but on some of the older presets, the newer ones you won't see it, but on the older presets, if you buy the preset pack, you will see it. Just turn it off. It's up here, just turn it down. Okay, really like this. You can also see the before. Okay, it's more like a tinting thing. Now, a tinting thing. A lot of people will ask me like, Frank, don't you ever use images that come straight out your camera because you use a light media, you use the X-Rite color checker passports, you are very big on color management. Why? I can't explain it. It's just a feeling. When I see an image coming in from film and you scan it, I just love that color. When I see it coming in from digital, I just ain't that excited about that color. I really want to give it my own look. So that's why we do it. And I think that's why Instagram became so big, because people love to personalize their images. Okay, flatten image. I think this is okay. I don't want to change anything else. I have to be honest. Let me go back and do flatten image for now. I see one thing that might improve this. No, come on. There we go. Okay, just mix it a little bit. There we go. I'm really struggling at the moment with the Cintiq, that sometimes when I hover over something, I just can't get it. See, I'm now exactly on top. Now it works. It's a little bit... If you also have this problem, just let me know. But because I calibrated the Cintiq like 10 times and I still have really huge offsets, so it's very frustrating. Okay, close. Okay, first things first, let's save this as a TIFF. And there are no layers. Cancel, layer, flatten image, there we go. Close, yes. Okay, let's go back to this one. Okay, now this one, I told you guys that we're gonna do something with color, right? And changing the color. Well, there we go. What you have to realize is that all colors exist in a color space. Red, green and blue, cyan, magenta, yellow. So red, green and blue are the primary, cyan, magenta, yellow are the secondary colors. In the middle there's a black body curve and everything is connected. So when I change the color temperature of one color, the other colors will actually change with that. So in this case I shot one part of my model with natural lighting or natural looking lighting, white light, and one part with blue light. Now watch this. When I go to my color temperature, and now we're going to go way off the beaten track. So when you do a shot like this, make sure that before you add any gels, you use a color checker passport and you do a white balance. We already did this way before Digital Classroom, so I didn't shoot it now. But it's very simple. You just use the color checker passport, create a profile, you have the perfect color. Now you can add gels and you can actually just start doing this. So take your Kelvin and just lower that. And as you can see, I can make it more blue. And I can actually make her look like one of those really nice porcelain dolls where all the blue just fades away. And a lot of people email me with shots like this, like, Frank, how did they do it? They shot it with a blue gel or a red gel, and you can do some other amazing stuff, and then just change the color temperature. Because when you shoot something like this with only blue gels, how do you get that face lighter than the other side? And the blue gel, that blue gel will stay blue, so it only gets more saturated. So that's a cool thing. Now, when I move it the other way, something really interesting happens. The angle. Now, if this is way too difficult, don't worry, just close your eyes and just look at close your ears and just look at what I'm doing. If you get this, it's pretty simple. So with tint, I can do the other way around. So now I can make it more greenish or I can make it more magenta. Now when I combine the two, this is where it gets interesting. So I want to go to blue, but I want to go to magenta too. And now by balancing those two, I can literally create any color I want thanks to that blue gel. You can make it really nice and weird. So let's not go too weird. Let's just go for that blue one that I wanted in the start. There you go. But always use the color. Like some people will go like, yeah, Frank, we already know you can change the color temperature. Yes, but I'm showing it you because we use it in combination with a gel, and that's something that a lot of people don't do. So of course you can change color temperature, but this is different, slightly different. Okay, let's go to Photoshop. Okay, we do the same thing again, but because I hate doing the same thing again, I'm just gonna turn on my action and just press play. This is something, if you don't know it in Photoshop, you can make actions, you can just record like a VCR what you're doing, and at that point you can very, very simply just do something really fast. Like in this case, if you look what we did, we actually started a duplicate layer, run portraiture, and just make the layer mask. And it already gave me a brush with white paint. Awesome. Because I probably ended there. Okay, let's do this really fast. This is a quick retouch. So I'm a little bit more sloppy now. And you also see that I work from the other way around. So I started at the face with the previous one. Now I'm actually starting on the arms. And the reason is very simple. It's efficiency because I'm still at 80% opacity. And now that I go more towards the face, I can actually raise my opacity on the areas where I want it. So I'm just working the other way around. So for the next shot, I will start at the face again because I left the brush at 100. I hope that makes sense. Okay, cool. So first we're going to do the borders. The areas where I want it to be a little bit less obvious that we retouched. Like the ears, around here, around the mouth and nose. It has to be flat. There we go. And I'm adding the effect up by pressing up and down. Now we're going to go to 100% and I'm going to take away, there we go. I'm going to take away the areas where I really want it to be gone. And because I don't use a masking for skin tone, you can see that I can literally also retouch the blue part of her face, which is not possible when you use that masking option. So don't use that masking option and do it yourself. A little bit more work, but you have way more control. There we go. Awesome. Now, when you say it's a little bit too much, I agree. So let's just back this effect down. There we go. Cool. Okay, now in this case, I think the eye should be a little bit more popping. So let's take the dodge tool, make a duplicate layer, and just very slightly go over the pupils. There we go. That's more than enough. Yeah, now those eyes really, really shine. Okay, now when I look at this shot, I go like, yeah, this is cool. I don't have to do anything with alien skin exposure. Oh, sorry, exposure software at the moment. But I still want a little bit more finesse in the shot. I want a little bit more power. So let's just go layer, flatten image. Let's go to curves and just bump up this a little bit. There we go. Okay, this is pretty cool. Okay, and now the only thing I do is image adjustment curves and go back and just go to the red channel and now just balance the colors the way that you like it. So if you want a little bit more red in my case I want a little bit more blue on the highlights. Oh, sorry, a little bit more red on the highlights, and in the shadows just a little bit less. There we go. Okay, cool. I think we're done. File close. And yes, and let's go back to capture one. Okay guys, are there any questions? Let me see, we have Frank, do you have a code for exposure? Yes, we do. When you go to my website, let's open that up very quickly. Go to frankdoorhof.com/discount. So, oh, sorry. I have to put it here. So when you go to frankdoorhof.com/discount, discount, not with an S, so discount, you will go to this site. It's just a quicker way to get there. And you can see we still have the logo up there from Alien Skin Exposure, but we're going to change that very quickly. If you use our code Frank Doorhof, then you get a 10% discount. And we also have, of course, Skylum, Topaz. So we have a lot of guys here that help our work and that will actually give you a little bit. Next set, what we're actually going to do is a bit of a discount. We're also going to try to make sparkles in the image. And that's something that I didn't do a lot yet. So, well, it's a little bit terrifying, of course. No, I'm just kidding with you guys. Are there any questions on Facebook, Annemiek? No questions on Facebook? No questions on YouTube backdrop. And these backdrops do. So in the past we used Lusterlight, and we still use Lusterlight, and I love the Lusterlight products. The only thing is I like them a little bit bigger. And Click Prop Backdrops actually offered us to do a custom Frank Doorhof Signature Series. And well, I couldn't resist that. And their backdrops are absolutely amazing. So that's why we actually also started using those. Don't you need to dodge and burn with the filter of Imagenomics? You don't need to dodge and burn with Imagenomics. You can do it. Now, I think what Ineke means, she asked the question is, do you still need to dodge and burn? And dodge and burn is a technique where people go into like 400%, go over the skin and just make it 100% perfect. Now, in my personal opinion, we're still shooting people, right? We don't want it to be 100% perfect. We want it to be alive. And we don't want it to be like Frankenstein. So I don't really go into that whole dodge and burn. Also because it just takes way too much time, so it was never my thing. But I do like a more smoothened out skin, because I think digital is very, very sharp and just shows you all the details, while film often was a little bit wobbly, so you didn't see all that sharpness in the skin. And that's true. When I still shoot film and I scan it, I don't feel the need to really do some retouching on the skin, because it already looks a little bit softer. When you shoot film, you probably know exactly what I mean. Okay, no more questions, Anouk? Okay, we're going to set up for the next set. And in between, we're going to show you something that's really important if you want to learn lighting. So make sure you check out this video. Hey guys, my name is Frank Doorhof and I'm a fashion celebrity photographer based in the Netherlands. But most of all, I love teaching you guys about photography. Now, what is the main ingredient of photography? The model, of course, your camera, but most of all, lighting. Photography is painting with light, telling your story with light. And so light is the most important thing in photography. But still, 99% of the photographers let the lighting control them. While in essence, you as a photographer should be able to control the lighting. And that's why this video is created. It's a video about the essential lighting techniques, the lighting techniques that you should learn. How to create a white backdrop, or how to create a black backdrop, how to make sure that there's still shadow in your lighting. But most of all, how about the essential lighting, like Rembrandt, butterfly, feathering your light, making sure that your model is lit the correct way. In this video, we're going to do all those techniques and way more. Very simple tips about how to control your shadows. We talk about light meters, we talk about my favorite plugins. If you're a starting photographer, this is the video for you. This is where you learn everything you need to know about lighting, and after that you can start telling your story with great lighting. If you're a professional, I'm sure there are a lot of tips in here that also help you. So enjoy our new instructional video, available now. Hey guys, welcome in the Netherlands, Amsterdam. This is my home country and my name is Frank Doorhof. Working with models, that's what I love to do. That's where my main passion is. Working with models gives you the option to create something amazing. I try to really dig in deeper. And to dig in deeper, you have to make sure that your model is at ease. How do you pose your model? How do you style your model? How do you make sure that your image really tells that story? If you want to know more about working with models, check out my class on coaching and working with models on kelby1.com. Okay guys, and you can already see our beautiful backdrop. Anouk is setting up the camera, so what I'm going to do very quickly is I'm going to switch to the camera she's setting up. Anouk, can you hold your hand in front of the camera you're setting up? Let me see which one that is. Okay, that one. So I'm going to stand where I need to stand, because she still has to figure out a little bit how to set it up. So we have this beautiful backdrop. And of course I'm going to talk to you guys from here. So Anouk can set it up very quickly. This is one of the things, it's a live broadcast. We try to do it as fast as possible, but changing sets really takes a little bit of time and more than 2 minutes. So that's why we now have to readjust the camera. Okay, cool. So we have another backdrop. And let me just switch cameras for you guys quickly that you can see the backdrop while I'm talking about it. And let me just switch over to an overhead cam so you can actually see everything. So there we go. Okay, and we have a totally different model. Well, totally different. Let me put it this way. Let me turn to that camera. That's the camera, right, Anouk? Oh, which camera do I have to watch?
The one straight at you.
That one?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I actually switched to the other camera to show them also the backdrops where I'm talking about. So can you switch to that camera? To the overhead?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Sorry guys, live. That's live. So the backdrop I have behind me is very, very busy. And one of the things that I like about busy backdrops is that they're busy. Because at that point, you can really just make use of that chaos in the backdrop. Now, this one I was very, very reluctant about, like, okay, should I order this one? Because it's so out of what I normally do. Normally, you know me from the old Masters backdrops. It's a little bit more relaxed and maybe a little bit of vintage. This one is totally different. And that's the cool thing. With photography, push yourself to do other stuff, and sometimes you will find out that it's absolutely amazing. And this backdrop became one of my favorites very, very fast. So let me just start out with just using almost directional lighting on my model. So I'm going to use a beauty dish very, very close to my model. So where is the model? Model? Okay, please come in. Lisanne, are you ready? Okay, awesome. So and we switch to that camera again if you want. Okay, totally different. Yes. Just stand in front. Okay, now we all know, of course, that whole story about your old bedroom, right? Where you have a lot of posters. In this case, let's create a little bit of that bedroom magic. Don't get it wrong. So a little bit of the bedroom magic. So if you stand against the wall, please. Let me just place this light really close on her. Just lean against the wall if you want. Yes, there we go. Okay, so in all honesty, this lighting will make it like a vignetting, and it will look okay. So let's just do it. But this is not how we're going to shoot it. I'm going to put it on a very, very low power output. And that's the cool thing about the Hensel strobes. Now, when you buy a strobe, make sure that you buy strobes that you can lower a lot. Because if you have strobes that only do 3 or 4 stops, you will get into trouble when you do stuff like this. If you have strobes that go 6, 7, 8 stops, that's awesome. That actually means that you can go from really, really low light output to a really high light output. So now it's on the lowest setting. Let's just meter the light. Do you have enough camera points, Annewiek?
Yeah, hoor.
Okay, cool. Oh, it's still on reflective.
There's a guy outside for package.
Okay, 2.05. So let's go up a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 2.8. Absolutely awesome. If you see Annewiek running, it's because there's a mailman. I don't know. So I will wait a little bit because I don't know which cameras he's using. Let me just switch myself. One moment, guys. Sorry. Multitasking and one of the disadvantages of live shoots. Okay, she's already on the overhead cam, so that's cool. So I was actually talking into the wrong camera for a while. Thanks for warning me, Annewiek. Okay, 2.8. So that means that we have a very, very shallow depth of field. And that's cool. I'm going to shoot from a slightly lower angle up. And here we have shot number 1. And it looks really, really rough around the edges. We still have, of course, that blue in. So anyway, can you go to adjustments and do reset? Because then it will go back to my original settings. No, up in the menu. Annewiek in the menu. And then go to adjustments. And then reset. There we go. Awesome. And now Annewiek also know how to capture 1. How to operate capture 1, sorry. Okay. Can you look a little bit that way? Awesome. So I'm just shooting some images to show you guys how it looks. And one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people make, and you can actually see me doing the same mistake, is that there's this light bulb above the model. Do you see it? It's very, very subtle. It's almost correct, but it's very, very subtly wrong. And this is because I never asked my model if she could look straight through the grid. Can you look straight through the grid?
No.
Now, let me just lower this a little bit and tell me when you can see straight through.
No, it's actually getting... Yeah.
That's?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Now look at the subtle difference, and this is something that I see a lot in portfolio reviews. You see that she's now getting a lot more lighting, and it's more directional, so I really like this a lot more. Okay, but that's part 1. I promised you guys to do something special. Now you see another strobe standing here. Now let's turn that one on, and let's turn it on full power. So let's turn it on, full power. Now you might wonder, why is it aimed at Frank? Frank, dude, the model is over there. I know, don't worry. So we're gonna aim this at me. Let me see if it's on full power, yes. And I have this little magic that I'm gonna show you guys. This is really cool. Now these little disco balls, or mirror balls, you can buy very cheaply at your local Action or whatever store. Now when I use this ball, let me, oops. One moment, guys. This is one of the things that I hate when it happens. They actually, all the cables get interconnected with each other. Do we have lighting? Yeah. Okay, there we go. Okay, awesome. Okay, now first let me show you what it does. I aim my light source at the disco ball, and you can barely see it now because there's a lot of available light. But let me just take a shot. You can see that we now have a lot of lighting on my model, and I go like, how is that possible? Well, reflection, right? Even if I don't do anything and I shoot my model, you will see that we now have a lot of light hitting my model. So what's going on? Well, the thing that's going on is because that light is so incredibly powerful, it actually overpowers the other one. So let's turn that one off again and just show you the effect. Just to make clear what I'm doing. So I'm still shooting 2.8. And now we have that beautiful quality of light back. So one might wonder, is this too much? Maybe it is. But I'm going to do something else. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it very, very slowly to show you guys what we're doing. But we want to underexpose the model on the main light. So I'm going to shoot on f4 5.6. And we want to use this one to create a little bit of a sparkle in the shot. So let's turn this one off for now. And let's first get this one totally in order. So let's turn the volume down just a little bit, because I think it was a little bit too bright. Okay. Now when I just aim the light, let me just move it a little bit closer. Okay. From here I can see that there's a little bit of sparkle on my model. It's not much. When I move it here, you can see it even more. So we're getting there. So move that light really, really close, and that also means that I can now lower the output, but make sure that the angle is correct. So just wait until it powers down. There we go. Okay. There we go. Okay. Let's just go to, and this is I have to guess because this I can't meter. Let's just try something on F9. Okay, that's way too little. Okay, let's open it up. There we go. Now you see the first ones appearing. So let's give it a little bit more power. Okay, again, you don't want to overdo this, but I have to make sure that it actually gets where I want the light to go. There we go. And now you get that really nice, almost like you are in your bedroom and you have those little nice candles on and the bouquet effects. But in all honesty, it doesn't excite you yet, right? No, because we're still missing that main light source. But I'm now at f4. The main light source was on f2.8, right. Okay, so let's first see if we can get a little bit more sparkle in. Now the angle of the sparkle is very important. It has to reflect. So make sure that you take notice of this and just take your time. This is not something you set up in 10 seconds. So hold it in front of the camera or above my camera. And there we go. We have a little bit of sparkle. Awesome. Okay, but now we want a little bit of light on our model. So let's turn this one on again. And we were on 2.8. I'm just going to turn it down all the way. There we go. And now you can see that we're actually adding a little bit of light to her face again. But it's still not what I wanted, because I have something else here. And the other thing I actually have is this. And you can buy this on any flea market or whatever. And I'm just going to hold this with the disco ball in between. And because a lot of the light that reflects will be this material and only a little part of this, and this is the moment where I hope that when you do this, you're smarter than me and you turn off all the lights in your studio, which we don't at the moment. So I'm struggling a little bit by getting it right. But if you guys try this out, I'm sure you're getting way better results than I'm now. And now we get a little bit of a blue infestation there and a little bit of those sparkles. Now, I'm not that fond of the sparkles at the moment. I think they can do much, much better. I can actually see them way better on. Let me first focus on my model. There we go. I'll just bring it in. No, that's worse. Again, this is pretty tricky to pull off. Perfect. Okay, now first things first, I'm going to show you guys what I mean. We're going to turn off the studio lighting for a moment and don't stress because it's going to be really dark. I'm going to turn off this because I can't get the result that I want at the moment. Let's turn this one off. Okay, perfect. Do we still have a little bit of image quality, Annemiek? Will be noise, yes. Heck. Okay. And now what you can see is the more I move back, here I'm losing everything. I'm going forward. Here we have the sweet spot. And I was shooting from here. And as you can see here, I don't get enough light. So over here, oh, yeah. Cool. I love it. Yeah. This is better. So this makes it a lot easier to set up actually. Okay, so focus on her eyes. And now I'm blind. There we go. That's much nicer. So now we have those sparkles back. What you can also see is that it's very, very brightly lit now. So, turn this one down just a little bit. So we're just going to balance it. Okay, wait for the light to recover. It's dumping power now. Okay. Oh, sorry. I just removed my trigger. There we go. Okay, keep looking at the light. As you can see now I'm using a little bit of lens flare too in the image. And I'm getting this really cool vibe. Now, in all honesty, I'm still not satisfied with it that much because we always want more. So there we go with the blue. Just kidding. Okay. And it really helps if you have an assistant, of course, for this, which at the moment I don't, but you know what I mean. Okay, let's see if we can get a little bit of that nice lens flare in again. There we go. Awesome. The sparkles could be a little bit better. This is something you have to figure out a little bit. You can see them moving around. There we go. Okay, awesome. Really nice. Anyway, can I get my phone from you? Another thing that you might or may not know is that, of course, a cell phone is a highly reflective surface. So what you can also do is get your cell phone in there and maybe add a little bit of a reflection in there. So zoom in just a little bit, hold it on the edge. And just figure out what you want. There you go. Okay, look a little bit down. And now you're getting a little bit in the realm of, for example, the lens babies and that kind of stuff. It's the really funky looking stuff, which you can also do in Photoshop, but it's just so much cooler to do it live on set. And especially when you do it from the sides. Make sure your fingers are out of the frame. Just angle it towards your backdrop. And there you go. And you can combine that also, of course, with your sparkles, but in this case I think that's a little bit too much because then you need an assistance or something to hold it up. Let's go in Photoshop and see if we got at least one usable image. So Enrique and Lisanne are going to prepare for the next set. And I'm going to show you very quickly in Photoshop, because this one we're going to retouch a lot, because I don't have a lot of time to do it correctly the way that I want it. So let's just switch back to my camera. Okay. Well, let me first show you a little bit about why you should get a light meter. Hey guys, my name is Frank Doorhof and I'm the author of the book Mastering the Model Shoot. Now, you guys really like the book because we're getting a lot of rave reviews on Amazon and every other online store. So that actually triggered us to make a video series about the book. Now, in the first video, I will tell you everything about the light meter. Now, in digital photography, I think the light meter is the one thing that confuses people a lot. Shouldn't I use the histogram, Frank? Isn't there a meter inside the camera? Where do I point the meter? Towards the pretty girl? Towards the camera? Towards the light source? Where? There's a lot of confusion out there. Now, in this video, I will give you in more than 70 minutes all the insights out about the light meter. Calibrating, using incident and reflective, using a white background, how to keep details in the black, how to trigger the meter, where to point the meter. You will see everything very easily explained, but you will also see photo shoots including our model Manon. This is one of the videos if you're slightly interested in the light meter, or if you already have a light meter and you want to know everything about it, get this video. It's called Mastering the Model Shoot, the light meter, and it's the first video in a whole series that we're going to release in connection to our book Mastering the Model Shoot, and it's available now from our website. Awesome. Okay, so what did I do? The thing is that when you are photographing a model, it's very, very easy to always go back to the stuff that you know that works. The stuff where you go like, that's where I'm comfortable at. Now, the images didn't turn out the way that I really wanted to, and that's also why I turned off the studio lighting. But I think on the video you can actually see all the sparkles move around. Now what you have to do is just balance those a little bit more carefully than I just did. And this is one of the things that I hate about live broadcasts. I love to show you guys new techniques where I'm working on, and this is a technique I'm working on. I know it works. And then during a live broadcast, you just figure out like, oh, I know why this doesn't work, because you really need to pinpoint that. The thing is with that disco ball is if the light isn't hitting it under an exact right angle, you will not see those sparkles. So at one point I was seeing sparkles all the way over the ceiling and the floor, but not on my model. That's when I turned off the studio lighting, and that's when you saw also that lens flare appearing on the side. And that's what I actually wanted, a little bit of lens flare, and then those nice little balls that you see showing up. Like normally when you don't clean your lens, you have dust on your lens. Now you actually saw the exact same thing, but now you did it with a disco ball. Okay, let's go through the images. Now these images are okay, but they're not really creative. This is when I started adding the disco ball, and you see that there are no sparkles. This one is awesome, of course. And now you can see the first sparkles. Now don't expect sparkles like you normally see like in Photoshop, where you go like, oh, there are a lot of sparkles. This is very subtle. This is without the beauty dish. So this is where it's too dark in my opinion. Now as soon as you started adding that beauty dish, you can see that now we get a little bit of that face back. And you can still see that there are some sparkles there, but it's just not good enough. And this is when I started turning off the lighting. Very literally. I think I got two where I actually bumped off my remote. Okay. Now, when you have the time, as you can see here, it is doable. This is with lighting, so I don't know what the heck I'm doing, and that's one of the mistakes. But you already see here, by the way, if you look here very closely, you see I'm almost there. But it was just an inch. And this is something that you really have to do. If you don't take the time for this, it will fail. So here we go with the first sparkles. And now with the lighting off, I can do it exactly the same time over and over again, sometimes a little bit more. And this is with the blue added. You see how subtle the blue works? But it just gives you a little bit nicer feel. So let's take this one for the sparkles. Or this one. This one I like more. Okay. Now with the phone, what you actually do is you're creating like a double exposure. And you can do this with anything. So at the moment I used my phone. I couldn't find a mirror so quickly. But normally you do this with a mirror. You just hold it up against your lens and you just angle it. And at that point you can literally see, let's say this is the your lens, this is the mirror. And you just mirror it like this. Not like this because then you see yourself. This can be funny. But mirror it like this because now you can see your set and it just reflects back as you can see here. So I really like this effect. This one I actually love. Make it 5. But in all honesty, these are the more creative shots I'm making today. And these will take a lot more Photoshop work because I want to make them more special. Okay, so let's go to my retouched images here. Okay, let's do the first one. And I'm going to do most in the raw converter for this. So I'm going to bump up my contrast, add a little bit of shadow detail. And instead of taking the highlights out, I leave them totally in and just play with the brightness until you see what you like. Okay, so the sparkles are mostly here and a little bit here. So I was more aiming at the side, so to create that bubble effect on the side. Okay, this one I like more. So let's take this one out, give it 0. And this one is hero. Okay, this is way nicer. There we go. I like that blue in there. Okay, now these are also really cool, but I'm going to open up the shadows to make it a little bit more poppy. Add a little bit of take the contrast out, make it really, really flat. This is something you don't see a lot from me, really flat images. But sometimes it's just awesome. There we go. Okay. Let's dive very quickly into Photoshop, Ctrl-D. And let's see what we can do. If you guys have any questions in between, that's the cool thing about Digital Classroom, just ask them. We have chat rooms open on both YouTube and on Facebook. And Facebook nobody is monitoring at the moment, so I will check that. Okay, so. Okay, first things first. Again, the skin. You know that by now. So I'm running an action, taking a brush with white. The reason I'm constantly showing you the skin work is because I want to show you the whole workflow. So not just the workflow with the creative part, but I want to show you how fast it works when you have those presets done. And I'm now at 100%, as I told you. This time I will work the other way around. And this is something that's very, very personal. As with any retouching workflow, there is no right or wrong, unless of course you are working for 2 hours on a shot. That's probably not the intended way. Unless of course you do really interesting work like compositing. By the way, in a new Photoshop 2020, if you didn't upgrade yet, make sure you do it as fast as possible if you are into backdrop replacements. Even I can now do a composite. And I'm really bad with composites. Really nice. Let's lower the opacity now to around 80%. And by accident it ended up at 82 again, but that's not a magic number, don't worry, don't write that down. Just around 80 or 70, just depending on what you like. And I always go like, I know I'm overdoing it at the moment, but I just want to make sure that I overdo it the right way. There we go. Awesome. And now go over those border areas. So blending everything together. Cool. And now the thing that I do is just lower my overall opacity to make her look human again. There we go. Okay, good enough. Okay, now I already told you that with this shot I'm going to Photoshop the heck out of it. And in this case, we're going to use the filter called Alien Skin Exposure again. And in this case, Exposure. Sorry guys, I really have to get used to the new name. And let's go all over. Let's go literally all over. Okay, let's find something really powerful. I love this, but it's a little bit too yellowish for me. Of course, I can change that. Oh, this is the one. But I know I already have another one that looks similar. So before, after, you see it's just a little bit more powerful on the contrast. Okay, there we go. And now to make this one special, we're actually going to go to lighting effects. And let me just see. Let's just do all for now to show you guys what we have. I think this one is awesome. There we go. Or maybe this. This is cool. Okay, so what I did is a lighting effect, and you can also do this in Photoshop on a layer and just use blending modes. But this one, this is actually doing blending modes, by the way. So I really like this. And then as blending mode, you can do multiply. It makes it really too dark for me. Or screen, which I like. You can do overlay, which makes it disappear in this shot. Or hard light. And hard light I never like in these kinds of things. So mostly I will stay with the original like overlay. Now the cool thing about Alien Skin exposure software, just gonna try to do it right now, is that you can actually zoom this effect, as you can see here. So I'm zooming it and I'm just changing it over where I like it. There we go. You can change the opacity. In this case I think it's pretty cool to keep it this way. There we go. And press apply. So now I'm using Photoshop in a totally different way. I'm using Photoshop and lighting techniques in a more creative way to show you an image that is heavily Photoshopped. But it still fits, and that's the most important thing. Now, when Instagram started out, a lot of people started using Instagram to polish a turd. In other words, you have a great image which just sucks, but you like it. And you know it sucks. So what do? You just throw a lot of filters on there and you just make it work. And sometimes it's really cool to see that it just doesn't make any sense. Now, when you look at the texture that I chose, I'm actually enhancing my own lighting. So I already have lighting in this part, and I'm just adding this part to it, which was an overlay. So at that point, you really get a nice combination of those two. Okay, so let's just show you before and after very quickly. So I really like this. Let me see if I can get a little bit more contrast out of it. So do a layer, new layer. Make it empty. Go to this one. Go to channels and take the, take the red channel. Control A, Control C from select and copy. Go to that empty layer. Control V, copy it in. So now I have a black and white conversion, some people call it. It isn't. It's only the red channel. And now what I do is I go to soft light and I just blend the two together, and that creates a little bit more of a, I always call it like a voguey look, where you have a little bit more of a porcelain skin idea. So I really like that. There we go. Okay, layer, flatten image. Now, in this case, I want to add a little bit more color inside my image. And one of the things is, if you go to the dodge tool and you hold it long, you see the sponge tool. And on the sponge tool you have saturate. Let's create a duplicate layer and just show you what we're going to do. So I'm just going to do very slight on some areas, not on all. I'm doing it very randomly, almost like I'm just, and here we come with that Bob Ross again. I'm just painting it in places where I think it would be cool. Maybe this blue a little bit, there we go. And now, when I turn it on and off, I can literally see that I like it, except here. So in that case, and that's the cool thing about Photoshop, layer, layer mask, reveal all, take black paint, and just take it out where you don't like it, like here. There we go. So before and after. It's very, very subtle, but it just draws the attention a little bit more towards my model. Okay, I really like it. Flatten image. Let's do a little bit with curves to finish it off. Now on top I have a BenQ monitor. This is why sometimes you see my face going from this to this. Every time I do something that's critical for color or balancing my shadows or highlights, I look at the BenQ monitor. Although I love the Cintiq, I don't trust it for proper color or shadow detail. Because when I look at the Cintiq, her dress, for example, shows up really, really dark without any detail. I look up, I look at the BenQ and I say detail. And both are calibrated, both are perfectly set up. It's very subtle, I have to be honest, it's very, very subtle, but it's a difference between seeing a cable somewhere and not seeing a cable in a dark studio. This is also why I advise to use white power lines, power cables, because you can see them in a shot. Okay, so I'll show you very quickly how we do it. So we have our Cintiq here, this is where I work on, And the BenQ monitor is actually showing Navigator from Photoshop in full blast. So then I can make a perfect judgment for color and shadow and highlights. Okay, so I like this shot. Layer, flatten image. Oh, we already did. File, close and save. Cool. Okay, let's go for these two. Let's just do one. I like this one, but I like this one better. So let's not do this one. Okay, Control D. Now you see me giving it 3 stars. The reason I'm giving it 3 stars is because at one point it was a selection. I just don't like it now anymore, but maybe in the future I do. And at that point I want to get back to, for example, my folder and look like, okay, what are the 3 stars? Because the 5 stars are the ones that I retouch, the 3 stars are the ones that I am in doubt about or that I take out later. And the zeros are actually the ones that I save them, but I don't really care about them. Okay, press ultra smooth again. Okay, let's do white. Let's do this one really fast, guys. So we're gonna start at 82 and just leave it there, because I don't want to take too much of you guys' time, and you've seen me doing this now a few times. So I'm now doing it really rough, as you can see here. I'm literally just going over it like a madman. I don't pick up my brush for the very simple reason I don't want that. So I'm gonna switch over to black, and now I'm gonna go to 100% for the opacity. Ah, this is so frustrating. You see me hitting it and it just disappears, and now it does. So again, if somebody has that same problem with his Cintiq or her Cintiq, let me know, because it frustrates the heck out of me at the moment.
There's a question on Facebook.
Oh, question on Facebook.
What
that means that Anouk is back.
What kind of... Yeah, there was a guy picking up packages, but I didn't have packages today.
Ah, okay.
So I don't know. I had packages yesterday, but...
that's the mail.
The question is, what kind of action do you use for skin?
For skin, sorry.
Skin.
For skin, it's image nomic portraiture. And the action I'm using is actually an action where I run image nomic portraiture and create a duplicate layer and a mask. So I think he tuned in later. If he goes back, I actually explained it at the start of Digital Classroom. So it's already in there. Okay, now we have a problem which you see a lot. And that's actually these lines under her eyes. And a lot of people email me about it, like, Frank, how do we take them out? Make a duplicate layer, and I'm going to show you a trick that works like a charm. Go to 100%, and you see those lines. Now you can use your healing brush, but you can do something else that's way smarter. Use your clone tool, put it on under 10%. It doesn't matter what it is, but I always like it under 10%. Sample very close by and just massage it away. You don't have to take them out completely, but just massage it away. This is also how you, for example, can make the skin a little bit less rough, like here. Sorry, I'm not English as a native, so sometimes I mess up. There we go. See the difference between before and after? So actually with that brush, you can literally just paint in the skin where you think it's still a little bit too rough. And of course you can still use your healing brush for stuff like this. But hey. For Digital Classroom, this is good enough. Okay, just go for the dodge tool. Just open up our eyes. Let's make sure that we do a layer flatten image. Okay, let's open up our eyes. Just a little bit. There we go. Okay, so with this one, I want something special. And for that, we're going to go to exposure software. And this is a vital part of my workflow. You can do most of the stuff in Photoshop if you have the time, but I just think exposure software does such a great job of combining everything that I don't see the need to do it in Photoshop. Just get the software. Okay, let's just try something a little bit different for this one. I want it really bright in there, but not too much. I think I like this a lot. It's very like a newspaper-ish. And let's see, lighting effects. I don't know if that works for this one. Let me just try some different ones. And let's see what we have. Oh, I like this a lot. There we go. Okay, let's zoom. Now the cool thing about exposure is that you can actually also place it on the other side, because this is where my phone was. Oh, I like it there a lot more. This is nice. Okay, now lower the opacity. Now maybe zoom out. The get a little bit more on her face. This is very, very subtle work that I'm doing now. I'm just adding it a little bit more. There we go. I like that line there, but I like it to go over her head just a little bit more. So I'm literally now focusing on one line that's over here. There we go. I like it. Her eyes are still perfectly there. Okay, cool. And press apply. And this is a really heavy filter which I'm using because you don't see it, but the presets can vary from very slight to very heavy. And the preset I chose now is actually pretty heavy, so that's why the computer takes a long time. There we go. Love this. So I really like this effect. And of course, if you want it to be a little bit more like that foggy look, you can still go to that red channel. And this is also an action, but it's actually the same thing that we did before. But in all honesty, I think this is a little bit too bright. So let's turn this one down. And let's try with the green channel, which I never use. And in this case it works. It's ridiculous. But okay. No, that's too much. Okay, let's blend it in a little bit. So let's just lower the opacity. There we go. So before and after. And this is the green channel. And the green channel, I always tell people don't ever use the green channel because it sucks. But in this case, wow. Okay, layer, flatten image. And as you can see here, we didn't do anything. Just hold the phone there and just get a little bit more of that double exposure. Maybe hold 2 mirrors or 3 or 4. Try it, guys. Do it. This weekend during Ultimate Weekend, we're going to do a lot of these tips. So make sure you check out Ultimate Weekend end results. We are going to film Ultimate Weekend, but we're not going to make a vlog out of it right away because it's 2 days. One from 9 till 9 and one from 9 till 4. And in all honesty, I'm dead tired after that, so we're going to do the video later on. But you're going to see a lot of those tricks in there. Okay, file close. Awesome. Okay, now, we do have one final set, but before we do the final set, I actually want to do something else, because you guys sent me some images. And I'm going to select one of the lucky ones. Or lucky, I don't know, maybe. Let me just open up the first one in Photoshop. Okay, it's on the other monitor, don't worry. Let's open this up in Photoshop. Open with. Okay, cool. I'm going to do all 3. So he sent me 3. And I'm going to do it really fast so it don't take up too much time. Okay. Photo critique. Awesome shot. One thing, and you see that a lot. Dare to crop. There we go, much, much better. And the cool thing is, if you did this in camera, you would also have a little bit left of her hands. If you didn't do it in camera like this, make the crop even more aggressive. Maybe like this. And then you don't notice that you also cropped off her hands, because now you're cropping off both. So that gives a little bit more balance. Love the black and white conversion. This is absolutely awesome. Okay, second shot. Okay, awesome. I would add a little bit of shadow detail. So let's go to shadows and highlights. Add a little bit of shadow detail and take away a little bit of the highlights. There we go. Now for this one screams Topaz. And then Topaz Studio. And let's go for that pop effect. And Anouk is telling me I have to hurry up, so I will. But I still wanted to do this guy for you guys. On the second monitor it's now starting up, so don't worry, I'm going to drop that on the first monitor very soon. Okay, there we go. Now the thing that I love, and I have to be honest, this is the new version. And I didn't work with this one a lot because I still use the old version next to it. Never should do that. Okay, and just press accept. Okay, cool. I love this, but I don't like it on our face. So layer, mask, reveal all. And just take it out of her. I'm going to do it really rough, guys, because I'm running out of time. Okay, cool. Layer, flatten image. And again, copy that red channel. That works great for shots like this. There we go. Now we have a little bit of more contrast in there. And finally, just create something like a vignette. And in all honesty, I really like the shot, but I would do it a little bit tighter, like this. So you have this wondering like what's going on up there, and maybe a little bit tighter there. Don't like that part here, so I would crop that off. Overall, love it. Love it. And I would take that out. So just take your healing brush. Okay, I see what I'm doing wrong. Flatten image. There we go. So really like this. This is super fast photo reviews. Okay, and the final one. Yeah, this is something that I also struggle with a lot. When you do movement and you do composition, you have to always realize that when you do movement like this, the hairs are up and the eyes are dead center. And for me, when I look at this shot, I absolutely love it, but it just, what we call in the Netherlands, it wringt. It's, how the heck do you say that in English? There's like this, something in the image that just tells me, I'm wrong, I don't know where, but I'm wrong. And that's because with images like this, I would highly recommend shooting it a little bit more of her body, or what you can also do is do this. Let me see, image, canvas size. Let's go to percentage. Let's go to 200% just for now. And just move it, that way. Awesome. Already you see that this looks a little bit better. Now, if you would have filled this up with the same stuff, and maybe, just maybe, crop a little bit aggressively. And you just have to think now that this is part of the photo, right? So when you shoot it like this, it gives you a little bit more, and they call it negative space. And again, I'm really positive about negative space, so I would really like a hashtag called negative space is positive space, because it really adds to the image. And again, this should be the backdrop, so it shouldn't be white. So when you look at this and you go like, hey, Frank is crazy, it's white, it should be the backdrop. But with this, well, okay, let me see how smart Adobe is. Let's just do content aware fill and just hope. It will probably just mess it up terribly. It's not good, but it's not bad either. So no, it's actually pretty bad. But you know what I mean, right? Now I can actually show you a little bit more, like if I just crop this, it already looks a little bit better. But hey, you know what I mean, right? Make it work. No eyes dead center. And maybe you can even do it like this. Okay, it's all in the crop. The eye, this is something that frustrates me a little bit, but it also happens in my shot, and sometimes you just go like, okay, it's there, just leave it there. But it's not perfect. But overall, man, I love the lighting in these shots, and I just love the way that she moves. You nailed the exposure, you nailed the moment. Really cool. Just think about composition. But that's my personal opinion, of course. A lot of people go like, maybe people go like, Frank's nuts, I love it like that. Awesome, cool. It's art, it's photography. There is no right or wrong. There's only something that you like or not. Okay, Anouk, is the model ready for the final set?
Yeah.
You don't even need a mic, Anouk. You already register on my mic.
I have a
cookie.
Little cookie for you.
I don't eat while I'm working. Anyway, I want to show you something else. Now, when you look at my camera, you see that I'm shooting tethered, right? Tethering is something that I love to do for the very simple reason I see my images coming in. The thing that frustrates the heck out of me is I'm using a tether block under my camera. Now, that's a really nice piece of hardware. Oh, let me just change over to full screen for now. Let me go there. Okay, now one of the things that I love about the tether block is the jerk stopper works great, but I use my camera way too much, and in all honesty, with people walking around, sometimes they stand on my cable, and the jerk stopper is great when you work alone in the studio, but when somebody stands on your cable, there's still some wiggle there. So that's why we use a tether block, and a tether block, I will show you very quickly, is underneath your camera, and it's also an ARCA connector, so it's underneath your camera, and it's pretty solid. And now I don't have any problem with literally just yanking my cable out, as you can see here. It's very, very tight, it's very, very solid. There's only one thing that frustrates the heck out of me. As soon as I'm done with the photo shoot, this is the part that also goes into our safe, because my camera has to be in a safe, right?
And bag.
And bag. So, because on location we don't want to use like a little screwdriver to get the tether block off, and then we just leave this cable on. But that also means that we always drag this around. Now, Tether Tools just released something new, and I call it the pigtail. Is it the pigtail?
It's the pigtail.
It's the pigtail. It's the pigtail. Now, as you can see here, we have this cable, but when you look closely, oh, I see everything mirrored, so I have to do it like this, we're actually now having a very, very short extension cable. So we're going in with USB-C, going to this pigtail, and you can just put your cable in there. So it's like an extension cable. And the cool thing is now this only goes into my bag. So I don't have to take everything off, and I can just use my camera like this. For people that switch around a lot like I do, this is literally amazing and worth its money in gold, because I wouldn't live without this. If you just shoot tethered once a week, you go like, Frank, why the heck are you doing this? If you take it off every day, trust me, you will love this. The pigtail. What's in a name? The pigtail.
I don't know.
Sounds awesome. But it's from Tether Tools, and as you know, Anneweek and I are the distributors for Tether Tools in the Netherlands, so this product will be on the market very, very soon.
It is already on the market.
It is already on the market.
It's available in USB-C, which I prefer, but also in mini USB. Mini USB and also USB 3.
Yes.
So it's missing micro USB for the other Sony cameras. So
which is terrible anyway. So
that's wow.
Yeah, micro USB is terrible. This is one of the things, by the way, why you should always use something like this. Now, when you have a USB-C camera, you probably go like, I don't need something that takes the tension off, because this is a pretty solid connector. If you have something like a USB 3, you might think the same thing. When you have micro USB or mini USB, you know this is very, very fragile. The thing is, it's fake confidence, because this USB-C and the USB 3 are very, very fragile inside. Although it locks better, inside it can still break off very, very easily. So make sure you always use or the Tether Tools jerk stopper or the tether block, and I highly recommend this one. Okay. And
there's an extra security. You also use a strap on your wrist.
Yeah, I use a strap on my wrist because sometimes when you stand on the cable, let me put it this way. If you stand on the cable while you're sitting and you're going up, you will actually yank the camera out of your hands. And this is where the pigtail comes in even handier, because as you can see here, we now have a breaking point. So I actually don't need that strap on my wrist anymore. The only reason I have that strap on my wrist is because several times I was sitting down, standing up, standing on my cable myself, or a student, and what happens? You go up really fast, the camera goes up really fast, it yanks, and at that point, the camera just falls down, and I had a lens broken, I had my camera broken once, and after 2 times I was just going like, this is not gonna happen again. So I have this little strap on here. I have this little strap on my camera, of course. And
this is your old camera?
This is my old camera. I just put my hand through it, and it's a little bit elastic, so now when I get up and I'm standing on my cable, I actually feel the tension, and before it actually is out of that elastic area, I can literally just hold my camera. Thanks to the pigtail, I don't even have to worry about that anymore because, So as soon as I stand up, this will actually just disconnect from my camera, and the only thing I have to do is just connect it again and it works. So it saves you a strap for the price of the pigtail. Awesome. Okay, so let's go to the final set, or do you have a question?
The tether block is also available in the normal uitvoering.
Normal
without ARCA.
Without ARCA,
and then
yes.
it's easy to mount it on another mount if you have a Manfrotto or other brands.
Correct, because the cool thing about the tether blocks is they actually have mounting screws also over here. So we also have a version without ARCA mount, so you can just use it there. Okay, so let's go on and let's go to the final set. For the final set, we put up another backdrop, and this one is amazing. Well, they're all amazing.
It's called Paint Splash.
Oh yeah, really? Why should it be called Paint Splash?
It's something people don't expect from you.
No, they don't. So I didn't expect it either. So Anneweek actually selected the backdrops and surprised me. So let me see what the model is wearing. Ah, there we go. That's awesome, I think. Yes, I think so.
I hope so.
Okay, this is more like a summery feel, and at the moment I don't feel it yet, but let's put some light on it and let's see what happens. And I think I'm going to feel it after that, because I love these backdrops, so this one should be no exception. Now for this one, I actually opted already to not have the grid in the beauty dish. So I'm going to use very, very broad and very broad and flat lighting. So as you can see here, it's a beauty dish with only the internal reflector and the 2 dishes, of course, that are standard for Hensel. Oh, Anneweek is going to change the camera. So these are really cool with Hensel that you don't have a lot of the hot spotting that you normally have. And we have the reflector in there, or the deflector. And we're just going to aim it straight at a model. So like a normal beauty dish without grit. Okay, turn it on. There we go. Okay, just aim it a little bit more. Oh, nice. Like it. Like it a lot. It's really bright, right? Yeah, it's Hensel. It's really bright. It should be bright. It's a German. And they know how to make stuff really good. Okay. Metering the light. 8.06, that's f10. Frank, how the heck do you know that's f10? Well, your camera works in thirds of an f-stop, your light meter works in tenths, and the lighting works in tenths. So when I see f8.0, that's f8. When I see f8.03, that actually means one click up, so that's f9. When I see f8.06, that's actually 2 clicks up, so that's f10. And when you see 9, you just add 1/10 more, and you're at f11. Okay, so I'm now at f10. I forgot. Okay, cool. Let's turn the camera on. That saves me a lot of trouble. Okay, f10. Okay, shooting with the A7R4 at the moment. The 60 megapixel monster from Sony. And I absolutely love that camera. Oh, this is actually pretty cool. When you see, I already see the image on the preview. I absolutely like this. It's more like a painting. So what you see now is, I'm starting to think, right? And what a lot of people don't realize is that sometimes in situations you get confronted with backdrops that you didn't expect. Now, of course, I know my backdrops, but we have so many in stock. We have like 40 or 50 different prints in stock. So we just grab one out of the stock, we put it up, we do the photo shoots with them. But during that process, I still have to think about, okay, what am I going to do with this? And when I see splash of light, I'm actually also thinking about something like maybe adding a little bit of extra color. But there's also something else. Do you see that over there? You see a little bit of a line. So can you stand a little bit that way? Perfect. Awesome. So I'm going to change my lighting, and I'm going to show you why I did that. And just look at her behind, her bottom. Now that looks a little bit better, right? Cool. Okay, now in a moment I want you to turn around very violently and do like a nice twist with your hair. Just try that once. Are you ready? Just turn around and just stand, stand as close as possible to the backdrop while you're doing that. Are you ready? Yes. 1, 2, go. Okay, I like this. But in all honesty, it's not the kind of shot where you go like, wow, Frank, that's amazing. Let's go to Frank, that's amazing, I hope. Let's grab that spot again with the blue gel. And let's place that very, very low. Annemiek, where's the blue gel? Oh, over there. Got it. Okay. And as you can see, a lot of people ask me, like, is Digital Classroom all rehearsed, or do you know what you're going to do? No. It's not rehearsed. It's all live, and I don't have a clue what I'm going to do. Every single time you see Digital Classroom, it's improvising, and it's trying out new stuff. And because it's a live shoot, it's a little bit dangerous what I do. On the other hand, it's also fun. And we like a little bit of danger, right? Okay, let me see if we still have a power outlet somewhere. Yes. Remember that tip? Everywhere in our studio there are power outlets on the floor. I know. But they trust me. I hope. Okay, let's turn this one on. And I'm going to aim this one straight in my lens in a moment. Oof. Yep. And let's just see what happens. So I'm going to shoot my model. I'm going to aim it at my lens. And if I'm correct, I have a little bit of a blue infestation now in my shot. There we go. It really gives you that nice painterly look, which I think fits with the backdrop. Okay, are you ready for your turn? 1, 2, go. Nice. Okay. 1, 2, go. Another one. 1, 2, go. Awesome. And the final one. 1, 2, go. Okay, I want to try one more.
Can I see a little bit more of the skirt?
You want to see a little bit more of the skirt? Okay, I can try that. Then I need to go a little bit like this. Okay, are you ready? 1, 2, go. Oh, I was a little bit too early, sorry. 1, 2, go. Nice. Okay, the skirt is okay in this shot. Yeah, I really like that. Okay, now I want to try something, and again, I never did this before.
Disco ball again.
Yeah, I don't have a clue what's going to happen, but I think this is going to be interesting. Let me zoom in just a little bit. What I'm trying to do is actually get the disco ball in the shot, but also try to mimic it a little bit. Okay, are you ready for the turn? 1, 2, go. No, I don't like that. It's not your fault, by the way. Okay, try it again. 1, 2, go. Now, the disco ball in this case, not really. Love that shot. Okay, thank you so very much. A little bit of applause for our model. Let's go very quickly into Photoshop and see if we can make this even more nice. I love that backdrop. It's one of the backdrops which I actually found hardest when I saw it. And now when I use it, I absolutely like it. It's like a real painterly look. Wow. Let me see if it's sharp. Yes. Okay, let's go into Photoshop. Let's first see if that's really the best one. I think it is. Okay, let's give that 5 stars. And I also actually liked another one, like this one. 5 stars. Okay. Let's do them both together. Control D, let's go to Photoshop. And again, if there are any questions, feel free to ask. Oh, there are questions. Frank, for exposure, will the plugin be enough, or should you buy something like Snap Art included? No, just go for exposure 5. I think for the moment that's more than enough. Snap Art is okay. It's actually really nice if you are into that kind of stuff. I ain't. So I normally use exposure 5, and I absolutely love that. Now, by the way, if you really want a Lightroom, how do you call that? A Lightroom replacement. Exposure works as a sort of Lightroom if you use it as a standalone, and it really works nice. Again, I'm more for Lightroom, so I use it as a plugin, but feel free to experiment with it as a standalone. If you buy it, you get it as a standalone. So try it out. Maybe you like it. But as a plugin, it's killer. I've been using it for years now, and it's my go-to plugin for, I dare to say 90% of my shots are actually tinted with exposure. One is 140, the other is 119. Oh, I didn't know there was a difference between the standalone and the plugin. At that point, if it's only like $30 difference, or actually $20 difference, I would go for the standalone if it also supports plugin, because the plugin is priceless. And otherwise, just use the plugin. How do you store the backdrops so they don't wrinkle? That's a very cool question. The backdrops are actually pretty thick, and they don't wrinkle that easily. So we just roll them up and we put them in a coker, in a holder. Just, I don't know what the name for a coker is in English, sorry. So we use them in a holder, and you just stack them straight up. We actually have a little device that you put on your wall, and then you can just stack like 10 next to each other and you're done. What I do advise is, if you want to use your backdrop, just hang it up like 20-30 minutes before the shoot. Don't do it like right away, but they flatten out really, really fast. And how do we connect them? That's also really cool. Is we have a metal plate on our wall, and it runs all the way from left to right over our studio, and it's like this in width, so it's like 15 centimeters in width. And with the backdrops, you can buy magnets. They're really, really powerful. And what you do is you just hold up your backdrops and use the magnets to actually put the backdrop in place. So it's held up by 3 magnets for every backdrop. They advise 4, but we actually use 3. And you can also use them with clamps. It's really, really, really cool stuff. that was one too many release. Okay, I'm not going to do the skin for now. Let me just show you what I want with exposure. So go to exposure 5 and just give it that tint that I'm looking for. Okay, and in this case, again, it's only finding the right tint, but I'm always looking for something else. Like in this case, I want a little bit more of that pastel coming out. There we go. Just gives me a little bit more of that look. And the cool thing about exposure software is, and again, you can also run it as standalone, is over here. And this goes for everything. And this is why in Digital Classroom, I try to do retouching different every single set. So I throw in a lot of tips. I hope you guys appreciate that. So if I want the blues to be a little bit more saturated, I can just pull on the blues and the cyans. There we go. The reds you have to be careful with because they're also in the skin. So just be very careful. And actually the hue, you see I can make it a little bit more tinted over there, which I absolutely like. Really cool. Now with luminance you can lower or raise, but you have to be careful. As you can see here, when you do it extreme, you have extreme offset. So be careful with that. So I will never ever use that on the skin. On skin tone, so for example red, but I will use it on the blues. And I will actually lower it in this case a little bit, not too much. There we go. And maybe on the cyans just add a little bit of, there we go. So make it a little bit more contrasty. Now the reason I'm opening both shots is I want to show you why exposure is so cool. When I press apply, this one will be applied to this shot. Now when I use other plugins, what I often find is that when I start up the plugin again, I have to start from the start. In other words, I have to build up my whole preset again, and I just build it. And I didn't store it, of course, because I forgot. Yeah, I didn't store it. Panic, panic. No, don't worry. You just go here and you do exactly the same thing. File, exposure software, exposure 5. And watch this. It remembers what you did before. All the settings are still there. I didn't save it because I don't think this is worth a preset that I want to save. And now when you have several images in that same series, the cool thing is you just edit it like that and you have the same look on all images and you don't have to store it as a preset. Now, of course, I made my own mistake. Composition, but that's because when somebody moves and twists their hair, I always have a little bit more room to play with because I never know where they're gonna turn or how. So, and I never hold on like original aspect ratio. I just try maybe a little bit like this. It's just what I like. There we go. And when I print, that's when I sometimes run into problems because then I have to crop, or Anouk has to crop. And it's just, you know, most of the stuff ends up online or on posters or whatever, and it doesn't really matter if it's 100% 3x2 or 4x3. Those are sizes for your normal photographs. So it can be a little bit wider, and nowadays with printing you can do whatever you want. So I don't hold on to the old standard like it always have to be a 3x2 or a 4x3. No, I just change it the way that I like it. Okay, the only thing I now have to do is skin, but you already saw that a few times, so we're not going to do it. Let me just see what people are asking. They're made of vinyl, yes. Trevor, what is the benefit of exposure over using HS? What is the benefit of exposure over using HSL in Lightroom? In essence, every software package does it a little bit differently. Let me switch over to full view. There we go. So every software does it a little bit differently. Personally, I think Lightroom HSL is awesome. Exposure just has a little bit more range for me. It works just a little bit more intuitive. Yes, makes more sense. It looks a little bit different, and overall, you can get similar results from everything. And this is something that you really have to remember. There are so many people out there promoting their own product like this can do what no other product can do. In essence, they're all raw converters. Every raw converter works the same way. They have exposure, they have contrast, they have brightness, shadow, highlights, and of course they have HSL. HSL, by the way, just stands for hue, saturation, luminance. The thing is that some HSLs are only on red, green, blue, cyan, magenta, and yellow. And some actually also throw in, for example, purple or any other color just in between. So that's something that you have to take care of and just look and what fits for you. But in essence, the edits you can do in Lightroom are almost the same as you can do in Capture One or in Exposure. It's just a different way of working. With Capture One, there's a lot of interaction between the sliders. In Lightroom, it's a little bit more like local adjustments, like they are really fit on that slider. So when you change contrast, that's about it. Only that's a wrong example, by the way, because if you change contrast, you change also your saturation. But if you do something like, for example, curves, it will have less effect than, for example, in Capture One, where everything is like nicely fit under each other for a workflow. In short, they all do exactly the same thing. Some output a little bit better. So when I do model photography, as I just told you guys before, I like the outcome of Capture One a little bit better. It's a little bit rounder. There's a little bit more, I call it intra-contrast between the pixels, where it just looks a little bit more sharper without being over-sharped. And Lightroom, I think, is a little bit flatter. Somehow the raw conversion in Lightroom, I don't like that's a harsh word, don't like, but I prefer Capture One to Lightroom for model photography. When we go to street photography, the weird thing is somehow I think the other way around. I just like Lightroom way better for street photography than I like Capture One. It can also be the workflow, guys. When I travel, I use Lightroom a lot. When I'm in the studio, I use Capture One a lot. So get that out of your mind. There is no better or worse. They all do the same thing. They just output it a little bit differently. In the end, it's the picture. It's not the software. That being said, when you do tinting, that's something completely different. Now, for example, when you go to Capture One, and this is one of the things that I love about Capture One. Let me see. Oh, there we go. Oh, sorry, guys. There we go. When you go to Capture One, there's something really cool, which you may or may not know. When you go here, oh, sorry, you go to levels, you can see that it looks a little bit different than you used to. And that's one of the cool things about Capture One. And look at this. Curves, we know that we can do red, green, and blue, and Luma or RGB. But with levels, in Capture One, you can actually do this. And that's not all. You can also do it from here. You can do this. And this gives you so much to work with. This is really, really cool. And that's something that I don't see a lot in other software. And this is where Capture One really stands out, and how you do the skin tones correctly, because they also have something like that for skin tones. So when you go here, you can actually see your color balance. But they also have a really cool color editor with skin tone. And now you can make your skins really nice and flat. I did a video on Capture One. It's only 15 euros. So when you own Capture One, download that video. It's on our download website. I will show you the link very quickly underneath. One moment. So you go here. And you go to videos, and then you download the Capture One version, 15 euros, and you will see also how to do skin retouching in Capture One. So that's really interesting. Okay. Now, by the way, if you have problems with our server at the moment, if you want to download something, just drop us an email if it doesn't work, because they are working on our server, and we hope to have it up and running in about 2 or 3 days. Okay, that's about it. I'm going to do the skin after the live view. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Most of all, tell other people about our channel, because then we can grow. And from our side, we love to thank BenQ and Rogue for sponsoring us for already, I believe, the 4th or 5th season. We're almost at episode 50. Next time, we're going to do something, I believe, with continuous lighting, so different light sources. So that's going to be cool. We're going to use Christmas lighting, LED panels from Letgo and Nunlight, and we're going to do a lot of other cool stuff. So, see you again next time. And again, if you have any questions, find us on social media or leave comments below. See you again next time. Bye, guys.